Now joining me more to talk about the story, DPRK, its nuclear program and reaction. Let's go to Jim Walsh. He's an international security expert and research associate at Massachusetts Institute of Technology, or MIT. Jim, welcome.
Good to be with you.
So obviously a lot of doubts about whether this in fact was a hydrogen bomb test. What are you hearing from your sources, contacts, and what do you make of the timing of all this?
I'll say on the first issue about whether it was a H-bomb or thermonuclear device, I think there's widespread skepticism among my colleagues, and that includes me. You know, we don't have perfect data here, but this is a test that had a yield that was, or a destructive force, an explosive force, that's pretty much consistent with their past tests. And if it was truly an H-bomb, a hydrogen bomb, then it would have been substantially larger, I think. We may get some definitive evidence if planes from the US and Japan are able to get air samples of any radioactive signature that might have been released as a consequence of the test. Sometimes you get that, sometimes you don't. But I think people are going to continue to be skeptical. As for the reason, you know, Korea watchers get it wrong more often than they get it right. This is an opaque society, the least well understood society in the world. Chinese analysts get it wrong. South Korean analysts get it wrong. So it's really hard to know what the motivation is. It may be internal. You know, there are important meetings coming up in May. His birthday, the leader's birthday, is on Friday. It may be external. Too many theories, not enough facts when you're trying to decipher the causes of North Korean behavior.
I just find it interesting that every time they conduct a test, the world's attention is focused elsewhere. This time, on Saudi Arabia, Iran, the fight against ISIL, what's going on in Iraq.
Yeah, the only country other than North Korea that's happy that this happened is Saudi Arabia, because it got off the front pages, at least for a day. It's true, and there is a certain rhythm to this. It seems like it's once every 3 years. But we're all sort of touching different parts of the elephant and, as blind men and trying to figure it out, and we just don't have enough facts to know. It's obviously bad, though, right? It's without knowing where it's going. It's not a game changer. You know, if they have a nuclear weapon, they have a nuclear weapon. Whether it's a big one or a small one, it's still bad. That isn't changing. I think it's the political consequences it has in the region. I think it poses some difficult questions for China. Essentially, North Korea is thumbing his nose at China.
And I'm sorry to interrupt you, and that was going to be my next question. China's leverage and role, and they were completely blindsided here.
Absolutely.
They had no idea this was going to happen.
Which is not the way allies are supposed to treat allies. If you have to be evacuating school children on a border because you think it's an earthquake, that's not good. That's not cool. That's not the way you're supposed to treat each other. I think it's, you know, it's tough. I think in the U.S. there's this sort of narrative on Capitol Hill that China can solve all these problems because they have the leverage and they can just do it if they want to. I don't believe that's true. I do think China has more leverage than Chinese officials are willing to say, you know, because there is such a strong economic tie. But China's in a dilemma here. It actually doesn't like North Korea. And all these tests only undermine Chinese national security. They make the Japanese mad and the South Koreans mad and brings the U.S. into the region even more strongly. But North Korea is on its border. The luckiest thing that ever happened in North Korea is it's on the Chinese border, because that helps it economically. It can evade sanctions just because it's next to a big, thriving economy. And it makes it difficult for China. China sort of faces a dilemma here. If it squeezes North Korea, what happens if it squeezes too hard and the thing cracks? It doesn't want that on its doorstep. So that's the nature of the challenge that the Chinese face right now.
I think it's safe to say neither Beijing or actually no one wants to see a unstable North Korea.
Absolutely.
All right,
Absolutely.
Jim Walsh, thank you so much for your time and your perspective, sir.